Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Katie Dalebout, the host of the Let It Out podcast, and this mini-series, Katie Wonders, where I share my favorites/gratitudes, things I've been grateful for and really into over the last about a month or so. So on this week's episode, I'm going to be sharing my favorite podcasts, foods, books, movies, people I've been loving in the past month or two, so for September and August.
And I wonder if you know what
I'm really happy to be recording this episode right now because I love sharing what I'm grateful for and what my favorites have been, things I've been loving, because it really helps me to actually get introduced to new things as well, because when I share with you guys, I get your feedback and then you tell me things that you like, and it helps me find new music and podcasts and foods and people that you're really into. And so I think I'm going to keep recording these. It was funny, I was in the listener Facebook group last week and I asked, what do you guys want more of? What do you want to hear more of from me? And overwhelmingly, surprisingly, kind of, so many of you said you wanted to hear more of these favorites episodes. So without further ado, I'm going to get right into them. But yeah, that Facebook group I mentioned, you should totally join that if you haven't. It's a great little environment I have online. So join that, link is in the show notes. But let's go ahead and start with a beauty item. So I have been so into brows. I'm just so into making my brows bushier and fuller, and yeah, I've just kind of been very, very into that. So I discovered this really cool salon in LA, and it's owned by three sisters, which I'm a sucker for, family businesses. It's called Strike with 3 eyes, one for each sister, and it's really cool. One of them does hair, one of them does makeup, and one of them does brows. And they are super collaborative, super cool. I just read so many articles about them, and they do a lot of celebrities' hair and a lot of bloggers that I follow. They do their hair and makeup. And I just got really into one of the sisters who does brows and her whole method of brows, which is called the feather brow. And I read all of these articles and I watched all these tutorials. So I'm really into that. And I think I'm actually going to get my brows done by her when I'm in LA in November. Actually, I definitely am. I made an appointment. So I'm really excited about that. So anyway, check out their salon. They even have like a really great Spotify playlist I've been really into. So check out Strike in LA, California. They seem really cool and awesome. And I will report back after I get my eyebrows done.
what it means, what it means. And I wonder if you know what
Okay, next up is music. So I am going to tell you 2 specific songs. The first one is new, or at least new to me, and it's the new Coldplay song featuring Fredo, and it's called Up and Up. And here's a little taste of that.
get together right now. Wanna get together somehow. Wanna get together now.
I love this song. I have been dancing to this song, and it just, I don't know. I like it. I like everything about it, and I keep listening to it on repeat. I hope you do too. The other song that is so fall to me, for whatever reason, I just always listen to this song and this band really in the fall. I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but there's this song called Before the World Was Big by Girlpool. And this band Girlpool, it's so cool. It's these 2 girls. They're super young, they're super talented, and they sing in unison actually, and like they sing rounds, and I just really enjoy this song in particular, Before the World Was Big, and it makes me cry every time I listen to it. Not every time I listen to it, that's a lie, but it has made me cry before, and watch the music video. It just speaks to, you know, this time when we were young and our lives had so much promise and we could do anything we wanted and we could be anything we wanted, and we weren't limited by age or time or money, and everything just seemed so within reach. And it's not to say that those things aren't still in reach for us, whatever age we are or whatever financial situation we're in. But when you're a kid and before the world is so big, it seems less daunting in a way. And I am nostalgic for that time every single fall, and this song just really speaks to me with that. So I hope you like it too.
7:45 in the morning, I'm leaving my house, trying not to think of all the ways this place has changed.
Do you have music that really speaks to a certain time of year for you? You know, for whatever reason, I love listening to this music in the fall. There's certain music I listen to every fall. There's certain music I listen to every spring, every summer. Do you guys have that? Is that just a weird thing that I do? I would love to know.
If you know.
So I've been reading a couple books this month. The first one, Josh Radnor, when he came on the podcast, recommended to me, and you guys, I can't wait for you to hear that podcast episode. It's coming soon, I promise. I'm just releasing them in order, and it will be released very soon. Maybe even next week? In 2 weeks? Very soon. Stay tuned. Subscribe. But anyway, in the meantime, he recommended this book by Richard Rohr called Falling Upward. It's a lot about spirituality and religion and just different topics that I found really interesting. So if you're into that, you might want to check it out. I really enjoyed it. Another book I'm reading is called Experiments in Truth by Ram Dass. I'm actually listening to this one. And Pete Holmes, the podcast host and comedian who I love, he loves Ram Dass. Like, we could make it a drinking game for how often he brings up Ram Dass on his podcast. And in fact, I think his girlfriend Val did that on one episode, and it's super funny because he does talk about him a ton. And so I had to read this book, Experiments in Truth, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying listening to it on Audible. It's super well produced by Sounds True, and if you want to get a free audiobook, you can do that as well. The link of how to do that is below or in the show notes. And yeah, it's really well produced by Sounds True and Tammy Simon, and it's calming to listen to. It is very cathartic, so I'm really enjoying that. And I'm actually going to the Ram Dass retreat in Hawaii in November, and I'm so excited, you guys. I've never been to Hawaii. Have you? Let me know. I really am excited. I've always wanted to go, and I've never really been anywhere tropical, actually, any like island place. So I can't wait, especially as the weather gets colder here. I'm so excited to be warm again on the beach. So the movies that I've seen since the last time I did a favorites episode have been the movie Don't Think Twice. I saw it in the theater with my friend Amanda, and I loved it, and she really liked it. She didn't quite like it as much as I did, but I loved it, and she liked it. Everybody's really liking this movie, it seems like. It's Mike Birbiglia's movie about improv and friend groups and growing up, and it's fantastic. I highly suggest seeing it. I also watched Other People, which is a tearjerker and moving film, but also has really funny, sweet moments with Molly Shannon, and it is just such a well-done movie. I highly suggest everyone watch that as well. It's about a mother dying from cancer and her son taking care of her and his reaction to that and his role within the family. And I watched a movie that actually has a very similar plot called James White, with Cynthia Nixon as the mother. And I mentioned this in my email newsletter, which is a whole nother topic, which I'll get to in a second. But anyway, it's kind of funny that the two topics are similar, similar premise of a mother dying of cancer and her young adult son dealing with that. But the films couldn't be more different, but they're both equally great, I think. Very moving and sad, but they make you feel feelings, which I think is really important. So anyway, I mentioned these in my email newsletter, which is something that I've totally decided to revamp, redo, rethink, because I realized that I wasn't wanting to read my email newsletter that I was sending, because I was essentially just sending, hey guys, Hope you're having a good day. There's a new episode of the podcast. Check it out. Here's the link. Talk to you later. Bye. And I was like, why would I ever read that? Unless I was like, oh, I didn't know that there was a new podcast. But if I was already subscribed, I wouldn't need to open an email telling me that there's a new episode. I would just look at my smartphone, So I'm not going to tell you when there's a new episode up, so subscribe. But definitely subscribe to my email list because I'm going to be sharing my writing. I'm going to be sharing much like favorites episodes, kind of. I'm going to be sharing things I'm into, but on a weekly basis. So links and things from around the internet that have inspired me, made me think, podcasts I've listened to, things that are more timely that I'll need to send out every week. So I think I'm going to send those out on Fridays because I like getting emails like that on Fridays to kind of end the week. And it'll be a nice weekly roundup for me. So make sure you're on my email list. I guess that's another one of my favorites for this month is the email list. It really does feel like a family that I'm writing to this smaller group of people that is really happy to have that content and engaged and I can communicate with. And when I sent out the last edition of the newsletter, I heard from so many of you, almost most of you, I felt like, and it was so great to get your feedback and your thoughts and your advice and resources that you were sending me. It was such a two-way conversation. So make sure you're on my email list. So for food, I have been eating a lot of really great food this month. I'm trying to think. I've been getting tacos with my friends, which has been great. And my really, really favorite thing to eat in the world is pancakes. And my friend Amanda has been making me these really healthy, wonderful, nutritious, but really mostly just delicious pancakes. She cooks for me all the time. I'm super lucky and spoiled, but she made these pancakes recently, which really blew out of the park anything else she's ever made. They were fantastic. So shout out to Amanda's Pancakes. And the food that I really want to tell you guys about this month is this candy. And I know you might think it's odd and like a random food to plug, but man, I just love these candies. They're called Dr. John's candies, and they're all sugar-free, but not in the way that you think, not with nasty artificial stuff or sugar alcohols. They're actually all sweetened with xylitol. And if you might know what xylitol is, you might not. It's actually really good for your teeth. A lot of natural toothpaste have it in it. And it's this birch fiber, I guess. It's like made from a tree. And so they're naturally sweetened with that. They have nothing artificial in them. The color all comes from fruit. And, I'm holding one in my hand, and this one has pumpkin in it to make the color more orange. So if there's ever a color in it, it doesn't come from anything artificial. And the coolest thing about them, they're all gluten-free and non-GMO and dairy-free and really delicious, actually. And they are made by Dr. John and Deborah, his wife. And Dr. John is this award-winning dentist, and his wife, Deborah, is a dental hygienist. I'm getting this all from the back of the package, by the way, which I have in my hand. But they're both passionate about crafting innovative sugar-free sweets with no artificial sweeteners that, are actually good for you. And they're not your typical dentist professionals, as it says here. They love music, bicycling, fly fishing, outdoor loving, outside the candy box thinking. They sound really awesome, right? And here's the coolest thing. They're Midwestern. I actually found this candy in a health food store when I was in Grand Rapids, which is on the opposite side of the state as Detroit, where I live. But I found these candies randomly in a health food store and just loved them and started to order them. And then they actually sent me a little package that I can use as a giveaway for you guys. So if you want to try Dr. John's candies, let me know and enter my little contest. And let's see, how do I want to do this? So, okay, here's what you have to do to enter the contest. Leave a review on iTunes because, listen, it helps out the show a ton. It'd be so nice of you, so you have to do that first. And share the show with a friend. And then join the Facebook group, and in the Facebook group, I'll put a little thread like, hey, if you want to enter the contest for the Dr. John's candies, comment below, and then I'll randomly choose, or I'll have Amanda, my assistant, randomly choose a winner, and I will ship you some of the candy to try. So that's the food I've been loving this month.
These dreams be waking me up at night.
month I share a person, and this month I'm going to share Josh Radnor. I mentioned him earlier, and I don't think I've actually made him the official person that I've been loving this month, but he just really inspires me creatively a lot. You know, he's a fantastic actor, and he's going to be on Broadway in a new show. He's writing a book. He's still acting a ton in his show Mercy Street, and he is actually doing a new project where he's singing and writing music with Ben Lee, his friend. And, you know, whenever I think of the fact that I am wearing a lot of hats and I'm doing a lot of things and I can feel unfocused and I can feel like I don't have any creativity left to put towards something, I kind of think of him and all the different things that he's doing, and somehow he's still a nice, kind person, and he's still reading and learning and inspiring himself, and still made the time to be really nice and come on my podcast for 3 hours. So it inspires me to, you know, get my shit together and get done what I need to get done for the day and be productive. So that's my person this month.
You ever wonder what it all really means? You wonder if you ever find your dreams?
And last but not least, I thought I would talk about fitness and the movement that I've been loving recently. So as you guys may or may not know, I have done yoga ever since high school. So for many, many years, about 10 years now, I've been doing yoga and teaching yoga for about 5 years. And I love it. Yoga's great. But recently, I felt like I haven't been very good at being in my body. I've been like posting this and talking about this recently quite a bit, but my therapist told me that I don't actually feel a lot of feelings. I think my feelings. And so I think a lot of thoughts. And I've been trying to be in my body more and less in my head. And something that's been really helping me with that has been exercise. And I'm someone who hates exercise. I never really enjoyed doing it. I was never really athletic, but I would do it from more of a for aesthetic reasons, right? Like when I was really into making my body be perfect because I couldn't find my self-worth beyond that. And yeah, so I just kind of had a weird relationship with exercise. And my best friend, Amanda, the one I mentioned earlier, who makes the pancakes, and if you follow me on Instagram, you constantly see us together because we are. And we're basically sisters. We're both only children. And she's my best friend here. We hang out all the time. I'm going to see her in like an hour. And anyway, the point is she became a Pilates teacher maybe about a year ago. And so I started doing Pilates with her. I started going to her reformer classes. This summer in particular, I had a ton of private classes with her where she really taught me this body awareness, and she taught me about my body, and she just really helped me to be more in my body. And the reason I think I like Pilates, in one of her classes, someone else in the class told me this, and she was like, you know, it's so cathartic for me to come here. It's so stress relieving for me to take this class every week because it forces me to be in my body, because I'm only thinking about the movement. I'm only thinking about the feeling in my core as I'm doing the core exercises, or I'm only thinking about my triceps as I'm working my triceps. I'm not thinking about what I have to do later, or my kids, or anything else. And I thought that statement was really profound, and it really stuck with me. And so I've kept up doing Pilates, and I've really been enjoying it, and doing some other exercise too, doing some bar, and of course walking a ton because it's still nice out here. And I love walking and listening to podcasts so much, but I've been loving Pilates, and I've been loving this new relationship with fitness, and really coming up with a routine with that, which works for me, where I'm still able to do, of course, yoga and other things, but I'm able to do it in a way that is kind towards myself and loving towards myself. And I really have to credit Amanda for that. So we were talking, and she is a eating psychology coach and a health coach, and just a really smart, beautiful person. And not just because she's my best friend, you know, we would be friends in an internet sort of a way, even if we weren't close friends here. And we actually did meet through the internet. She followed me on Instagram and reached out and was like, this is like 4 years ago now, but she was like, hey, we should get together. We both live here. And ever since, we've been really close friends. But she and I were talking about, you know, what she was doing next creatively, and this was months ago, and she came up with this amazing idea that she told me about months ago. It's been her brainchild, her, things she's been creatively focusing on, and it's called Liberated Movement. And it's this course that teaches you to have a better relationship with movement and exercise. And it also includes Pilates videos. So you get to actually do Pilates with her, which I'm really excited about because I travel a lot. And so when I'm traveling, I'm just going to do the videos in her course. So I have the course, and I'm going to do all the lectures, and she's been filming it, and she's just been working really hard on it, you guys. Like, she's been really working on this hard. Trust me, I'm like with her all the time. So Liberated Movement, that's what it's called. And if you want to join through the link in the show notes, through the link on my website. There's an early bird price that ends on October 7th. So it's actually launching today if you're listening to this the day it comes out. But the early bird price only lasts until October 7th, but you can still join until the end of the month. So if you don't get that, it's not a big deal. Just join whenever. I'm going to be doing it, and I love her. She's my best friend, so of course I wanted to mention it here. She's going to do the podcast. We just haven't yet had a time. Well, we've had lots of time, but we spend our time like eating pancakes and watching Stranger Things and just hanging out. But we will record a podcast here soon, so you can actually hear her voice and get to know her. And if you want to submit questions for her, put them in the Facebook group or tweet them at me or her. Just let us know what you want to hear. But Amanda's relationship to fitness and movement is very different from mine. She was very addicted to exercise in a disordered way, much like I was with food, but I never really had too much of a disordered relationship with exercise. It definitely wasn't healthy. I wasn't doing it because I loved myself. I was doing it to change my body aesthetically. However, I just am so not great at physical movement and tough movement that I wouldn't really challenge myself that much. I was better at being more, not better, but I really had my disorder when it came to food and discipline around that. But with hers, it was, exercising multiple times a day and doing really intense things, and it caused her to lose her period. And I hope she wouldn't mind me saying this, but it caused her, a lot of stress on her body and on her mind and on her relationships and on her life until she really healed that relationship in this beautiful way. And now she has it's really inspiring to me. She has such a good relationship with food and with her body. It's been great for me to be around all summer, and and we've known each other for years, but we've just spent especially a lot of time together this summer, and it's been great for me to be around. So anyway, check out Amanda's course. Again, it's called Liberated Movement, but the link is in the show notes. Make sure you use that link in the show notes.
Chicago skyline, and that's why I'm 7 o'clock, that's prime time. Having a watch guy calling from the hotlines.
And that's all I have to share this month. I hope you guys check out some of the stuff that I mentioned. And also tell me what music you're listening to. What are you doing with your eyebrows? Tell me what books you're reading. Tell me what podcasts. One more thing. I have to talk about the podcasts I've been loving this month. Totally forgot. Okay, so one podcast that I've been listening to weekly and I've been having so much fun with is Erin Mallory Long and Jamie Woodham's podcast, Best of Friends. And it is about the show Friends, the TV show from the 90s, Friends, the sitcom. We know it. We love it. It's fantastic. And so is their podcast about it. I absolutely love it. Each week they talk about 2 specific episodes, and they're going in order. They're on season 8 right now of the show and of the podcast. And what I've been doing is I've been actually watching 2 episodes of Friends a week, and then it makes it even more fun to listen to them talk about the Friends podcast or talk about the Friends TV show on their podcast. And sometimes they have guests on. They recently had Deanna and Emily of the OMFG podcast on, which, we love, friends of the podcast. They've been on this podcast. I've been on their podcast. So they've had them on and many other people. And they're just really, really funny, interesting hosts that talk about an array of topics outside of Friends within the Friends podcast. So I hope you check it out, listen to it. If you're into that TV show, I think you would really love it. If you love the 90s, you'll love it. I love it. And Erin Mallory Long actually came on my podcast, and I'll be airing that episode really soon. We had such a fantastic conversation about the 90s and her moving to LA and being a writer and just everything from body image to being a woman to creativity. It was a fantastic conversation. I can't wait to air that one. And in the meantime, check out her podcast, Best of Friends. So, all right. Now for the actual end of this podcast episode. I hope you liked everything I shared. I want to know what you're listening to, what you're eating, what you're watching, and I can't wait to talk to you guys soon. Oh gosh darn it, I just thought of another thing I wanted to share. So I'm just going to share it quickly. Maybe I shared this in the last episode, but I don't think I'd watched it yet. Stranger Things. I mean, I just have to, not that it needs a plug, but I just have to tell you, I've been loving it. Such a great show. Are you guys watching it? It's fantastic, and I've really loved seeing the kids from Stranger Things on the internet in videos, and it's just made me laugh. Now that I think of it, I did mention it in my last newsletter, so you probably already know that I'm loving that show. But I want to know what else you guys are watching on Netflix and in general, because, you know, it's always fun to have a new show to watch. Amanda and I are actually looking for a new show to watch, so help us out. Check out her program, Liberated Movement. I love you guys, and I will talk to you next week. The track you're hearing behind me now is by a guy named Kanye West. Have you heard of him? And the song is called I Wonder.